Welcome to Hotspot. You're watching Cricket World TV with me, John Pennington, here in the UK, and Chetan Narula, who I'm going to get where he is right today in Canberra. Hello, Chetan.
Hello, John, and welcome to our viewers as well. Yes, it's been a long, tiresome drive. I was in Adelaide at 11 in the morning, and it's 2 a.m. in the night. So, yeah, it's 15 hours later. Adelaide, a short flight from Adelaide to Melbourne, and then a long 700 kilometers drive from Melbourne to Canberra, all to watch Afghanistan play Bangladesh tomorrow.
There's commitment for you. We'll come on to that game in a bit, Chetan, but we really just must really review the start of the World Cup because it's really got off to something of a flyer, hasn't it? Caught you on the hop there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 300 runs. I think today was the first game between New Zealand and Scotland that didn't have 300 runs in the first innings. Apart from that, every match has had 300 runs scored in the first inning, which actually says a lot about this World Cup because a lot was said about two new balls from both ends and batsmen finding it difficult in the first few overs, and then the batting power play being used to the optimum level. Uh, I think some of that has happened. There have been, if you analyze some of the matches, uh, there haven't been the best of starts, but then you have one big partnership which the balls go soft. And once that happens and two batsmen become set, it's just easier to get runs, I suppose. Um, but having said that, yes, we've had some fantastic games, and you can't really imagine a better start for a World Cup, which means so much to the ODI format at the moment.
Yes, I mean, if you look at the first two games, the favourites won those ones. New Zealand beating Sri Lanka, Australia beating England. I don't want to waste too much time talking about England. They were very, very poor, but credit to Australia, they were pretty good. And then, of course, India-Pakistan, the game that everybody was looking forward to. And, well, you were there, Chet, and just give us your sort of resume of that one for us.
Well, first of all, I don't want to neglect the Australia-England game because I was there as well. But the thing is, John, I know you don't want to talk about it much, but England weren't that poor either. I mean, they were faced with a 340 run target against perhaps the best bowling lineup in uh, collectively, I would say, best bowling lineup collectively in the tournament, I would say. Um, where they lost the match was the last 10 overs when they leaked 105 runs in the last 10 overs, allowed Glenn Maxwell to take them past 300 and 340. A better performance in the last 10, and maybe they could have finished with a 300 run target, perhaps. And yeah, once you're chasing 340 and you need to go at 7 runs per over from the very beginning, England don't have the batsmen to do that. Not at the start, not in the middle, not at the end. So they need their bowlers to be consistently performing all through the tournament and make sure that they don't get targets above 300. Otherwise, yeah, then it's going to be tough. Um, Clinical performance from Australia though, and I think there were 85,000 people in the stands that day, and perhaps 80,000 were Australians. Um, I think it was fantastic atmosphere, and if I just realized if Australia are in the final, it'll be very tough to beat them. So if anybody has to win the World Cup by beating Australia, by stopping Australia, it needs to be done before the final. Because in the final, 100,000 Australians cheering for their home side, you cannot beat them. You just cannot beat them. Moving on to Adelaide, uh, just a small mention for New Zealand Sri Lanka. I wasn't at the game, but I did watch it, and um, New Zealand just showed us. They had wickets falling regularly. The top order didn't. None of their batsmen actually went on and made a tall score. It was a combination and contribution from everyone, and then the bowlers stepped up. Yeah, I think Australia and New Zealand were co-hosts before Saturday. Now they are co-favorites in this tournament. Talking about the India-Pakistan game, well, I thought it was a boring match, to be very honest. The atmosphere was fantastic. I mean, I was there in Mohali in 2011, and yeah, but that was a perspective from an Indian point of view because it was an Indian home game, and you had 40,000 Indians, maybe 2,000 Pakistani fans who had come from Lahore or Karachi. Here, again, they were outnumbered probably 4 or 5 to 1, but it was a neutral venue, and to see such support streaming in, people flying in from Karachi, Dubai, Lahore, London, Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, and all over Australia and New Zealand, everybody converging onto Adelaide. That was a fantastic atmosphere, right? One of my favorite memories from this game was just before the game outside the stadium, both sets of fans dancing together, you know, um, just dancing together. It just showed, that cricket brings these two people together. So that was a brilliant sight. But like I said, the match was a bit boring for me. Um, I thought Shikhar Dhawan and Virat Kohli and Suresh Raina batted very, very well. Um, I thought Suresh Raina was the standout batsman out of the three. He came in at number four. He's not somebody who's associated with patience a lot, but this is the second time in a World Cup against Pakistan that he's done this. In 2011, he added those 30 runs in the end, took India from 220 to 260 with the tail. And that was the difference in that match, because Pakistan ended up scoring 230 thanks to Misbah-ul Haq. Here, again, because Virat Kohli slowed down a bit and there was a late order collapse, India was struggling. India were looking good for 340 at one time, but then they were struggling to get to 300. It was only Suresh Raina's runs that gave them a bit of an impetus. So, standout performance from the game for me. He should have been the man of the match, not Virat Kohli. But that's how the way it works. In 2011, Sachin Tendulkar was the man of the match and not Suresh Raina. So again, the same thing. But Pakistan were never going to chase 300. I mean, if there's a surety in an India-Pakistan game, it is that Pakistan cannot chase. And once India won the toss and elected to bat first, that was half the match gone. From then onwards, it was about Pakistan restricting India. But the three Indian batsmen played very well. Um, like I said, 300 was a tall order. The pitch was very good. It was a very, very good pitch. I believe any other team, and I'm talking about New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, and perhaps even Sri Lanka, against this Indian bowling, and maybe even Ireland. You never know because they've been chasing a lot of 300-run scores. So, but those four teams definitely would have scored those 301 runs needed for victory against this Indian bowling on that Adelaide pitch. I don't know about any other pitches, but that pitch was a good pitch, a dry pitch, a solid pitch. It was not turning that much. It was not slowing down that much. It was just that Pakistan's batting is so frail at the moment. They need somebody in Misbah's mold, another batsman in Misbah's mold who can hold the top order together. Misbah can hold the middle order together, and they can still get 250 runs, and maybe somebody hits and takes them to 280. But otherwise, Pakistan are in for a bit of a trouble in this World Cup. A good win for India because it changes things from the past 3 months. It gives them that, flip, you know, gives them that positive mood that they were looking for desperately, which they could not get in the Tri Series. They lost to England, Australia, lost the Test Series. They haven't had a good ODI run overseas. So that's that. In that sense, it's been good for India, beating Pakistan in a World Cup. Always that rush. But the real World Cup starts now. Um, the match against South Africa on Sunday will tell us where India really stand in this tournament going ahead.
Yeah, good stuff. You talked a little bit there about Ireland. We'll come on to them in a moment. One point I'd like to make about the India-Pakistan game, and it's also relevant to the Australia-England game, is that the fielding, India, very, very good in the field. Pakistan, not so good. England dropped Aaron Finch early on. I think they dropped another catch as well. And at this level, catchers really do win matches. And we saw New Zealand fielding very well against Scotland last night. I don't know how much you would have seen of the Ireland-West Indies game, Chetan, but what did you make of Ireland? I thought they were absolutely magnificent against, admittedly, a West Indies side that is in a little bit of trouble at the moment.
I saw the Irish innings when I saw. I got up a little late because I was working late on Sunday night because of the match, but and New Zealand is a couple of hours ahead, so I missed the West Indies innings. But when I saw they had scored 300, and the way they scored 300, they were struggling at what 70 or 80 for five, and then Sammy and Will Simmons did those. The last five batsmen added some 210 or 16 runs. Um, that sort of a performance when your last five batsmen add 200 runs, it should lift the entire team. It should lift the bowling attack. It should lift all batsmen, all fielders for that matter, and should just throw themselves on the field. I watched the Irish batting, and I didn't get that feeling from West Indies. They don't. look like they want to play this tournament. To be very, very honest, they just don't look like it. I mean, there's nothing about them that suggests that they are here to compete, here to win. And we're talking about West Indies here. I mean, they haven't been good for a long time. But to say that they don't want to, they don't want to be at a World Cup, that's really hurtful. And that's the feeling you get when you look at them. Um, when I had first looked at the schedule, to finalize my travel and stay, and then I realized, 16th of, I mean, after Australia, England, Sri Lanka, and New Zealand, and South Africa, and India, Pakistan, we have this game, West Indies, Ireland, and suddenly it seemed, that this would be the first upset of the tournament, and it turned out to be like that, and it's just thrown the whole group open because the way Zimbabwe batted against South Africa, they couldn't win thanks to David Miller, but they really gave South Africa an early scare, I would say. Um, and then Ireland went and did this to West Indies. There's no reason why Zimbabwe can't do that to West Indies. And then the Ireland Zimbabwe games becomes very, very interesting. Zimbabwe play West Indies first, and then they play Ireland. So it becomes very interesting. The race for the fourth spot in Pool B is wide open at the moment. And Pakistan have lost a very, very important game. Pakistan were down in the dumps before the World Cup. They've lost to India again. They're playing West Indies, which could be the game, could be similar to what India-Pakistan was for India. Just lift up Pakistan because it's a very good time to play West Indies. Um, but you never know. Pakistan are Pakistan, and Ireland have beaten them once. Zimbabwe are playing well. This is an interesting group. Very, very interesting group. Yeah.
Yeah, we sort of predicted it beforehand, didn't we, Chetan? We sort of saw the West Indies, we weren't sure how good they were going to be, and it's obviously great for the game that it could be very open, and we could, of course, end up with a situation where you have two or three teams level on points at the end, it all coming down to net run rate. We saw some interesting eventualities being played out in the World 2020 last year, with teams knowing, right, we've got to score a certain amount of runs in a certain amount of time. Early days yet, but you never know.
Scotland. There's just one point, John. If it does come down to the run rate, I mean, then West Indies are in a good position because they play the last match of the league phase on the 15th of March, West Indies versus UAE. In this form, I would back UAE against them as well, but you never know.
Good point. Well, UAE in action against Zimbabwe tomorrow our time. I don't know what time that is to you, Chetan, but no, it's day after tomorrow our time, so tomorrow your time, I think. The other game, of course, we touched upon South Africa, Zimbabwe there, but New Zealand, Scotland last night. I thought Scotland were outclassed, but not embarrassed. They were in big trouble early on, although the way that Trent Boult and Tim Southee were bowling, I think most teams would have found that hard to deal with, but they showed some fight and almost embarrassed New Zealand, but took 7 wickets and fought all the way through. How much did you capture that one, and what were your thoughts?
Not much. Just saw a bit of the Scottish batting when they collapsed early in the morning against Trent Boult. I mean, last year when I toured New Zealand, Trent Boult wasn't in their plans for ODI cricket. It's just when the T20 World Cup came in Bangladesh and he was included, just on a whim. Since then, he's become a very good part, and now with the 2 new balls and everything, yeah, he's doing very, very well for New Zealand, and he's like, along with Adam Milner, I mean, Tim Southee, I mean, they have a good bowling attack. Not as good as probably Australia, but I think on par with South Africa at the moment. So these 3 are the best bowling attacks in the tournament. So yeah, I'm not sure if Scotland really competed in the match. I think if New Zealand were chasing a few more runs, for example, instead of the 140 runs they were chasing, say 220, they would have perhaps approached the innings in a much more calmer fashion. I thought they were just trying to get the runs quickly, and they lost a few wickets in that. I'm not taking anything away from Scotland because the Minnows need our support in this World Cup. They're not going to be there in the next one. So they've played well in this first week. New Zealand will be worried that it took them they lost so many wickets to eventually realize that they needed to win the game. And yeah, but Scotland did well to take those wickets to make the match close. They didn't give up. That's the big thing. Wickets don't come on their own. So yeah, they didn't give up. But I'm not sure if New Zealand's approach had something to do with this collapse.
Yeah, no, point taken there, Chet, and they certainly, yeah, they struggled early on and obviously collapsed after that partnership between Machin and Berrington, which was very impressive. But, yeah, fighting all the way. Right, coming up then tonight, we've got Afghanistan taking on Bangladesh in Canberra, going to be there for us. Just give us your sort of preview of this one. What are you expecting? I mean, it's one of my games to watch, because you're the one that's going to be there watching it for us, so just give us your look ahead for us.
Well, one of the reasons that I came to watch this game 700 kilometers one way, 700 kilometers the other way. One of the reasons why I came to watch this game because it provides a very interesting contrast to two rivalries, which is Australia, England, and India, Pakistan. Um, Afghanistan, Bangladesh are basically neighbors, subcontinental teams, subcontinental countries. Um, and Afghanistan are a very interesting team. Their society isn't back to normal. You wanna say that they're not back to normal as yet. They're trying, but in such times as well, sport really lifts people up. And when I had gone to the 2012 T20 World Cup, that was the one thing that I had taken out of it. Afghanistan were trying. People were passionate about cricket. People were watching cricket. People were playing cricket. So, and 2 years later, 3 years later, 2 years later, they qualified for the World Cup. They're playing the World Cup for the first time now. So, it's an interesting story. It's a very heartwarming story. You want to give this team more chances. And on the other hand, there is Bangladesh, who in what 13 years now they haven't done anything. They are. I don't think I'm not going to say they have regressed. Um, they haven't progressed. It's very very simple. And you look at somebody like Ireland or maybe even Scotland, or you had Netherlands in the past. If those teams, or if somebody like Afghanistan, if these teams are given a chance, or as many chances the likes of Zimbabwe, West Indies, and Bangladesh are getting, world cricket would be in a better shape, in a healthier shape. And I think that's the crux of this match for me.
Yeah, I know it's something we talked about at length during last year's World 2020 Jet, and you and I both have very much the same view. So let's finish then. Prediction time. I'm going to go with another. Well, Ireland won't like me saying that was an upset, but I'm going to go with Afghanistan to turn over Bangladesh. What about you?
Absolutely, I would love. I've traveled so far just to see them win. Yes, going for an Afghanistan win, definitely.
Good stuff. Well, Chetan, thank you very much for your time today, and hope yeah, as I say, I hope the game is worth the long trip you've made down there to the beautiful Manukau Oval, I understand. But thank you for joining us, and we'll catch up in a few days' time.
Absolutely, always a pleasure. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks to Chetan, and thank you very much for watching us here on Cricket World TV.